Hi guys, welcome to Mentorship Monday. Guys, I feel like I need a jingle. Like I need somebody to hook me up with a jingle for this. I feel like there needs to be like welcome to Mentorship Mondays or something along those lines. So let's see, let's get a couple of more people on. Tabani, hello to you. Hlatsi, Lelo, Peacemaker, lovely name, nice to see you. Ndumiso, that's my Ndumiso there. Mapudi, Kay, always lovely to see you. I am Lebon Kadimeng. Hey, Levo. So nice to see you. We spent Saturday together. Thank you. Hello to you. Pearl Media, Sneh, Melo, Masejo, The Cyber, Lucy, Pindarella or Findarella. I think it's Pindarella. Hello, guys. Mrs. Charlie, Nogwazi, hello to you. My faves, Lindoguhle, hello. Hlatsi, hi. Felicia, Nomzi. I love the way some of these names come across. Hi to you. I am Tony. Thank you for being here. Yo, guys, I've been getting a lot of messages like, where were you last week? So I will explain. Tombi, hello to you as well. Livonia, Anda, Makula, Sbia, hello to you guys. I'm so excited to be back. Gosh, I feel like we literally missed one Monday and it feels like it's been forever. So I'm really excited to be back. So Mr. Khawdi, nice to see you as well. And Mamoner or Mamonere, Pindarella says Besi Poreke. Amanga. Lies. Hello, my friend. Hello, Mbungeni. Rato, hello to you. And Litabo, I'm really happy to be back as well. Okay. So let me start with the big question. Everybody's like, where you been? What was so important that you ditched us for Mentorship Monday? So it was a really legit reason. So I got nominated for the African Leadership Initiative, South Africa Fellowship. So it's Ali. And it's a 2-year journey. And that 2-year journey takes place over blocks over the 2 years. So I was in Stellenbosch for about 5 days with some incredible people that I admire so very much, that I think are just fantastic, that I think are so smart. And I was part of that leadership cohort. And yeah, it's always an incredible journey being part of the Ali family. It's always a very deep, reflective time to think about my own leadership style, to think about what am I actually giving to the world, if anything at all, what am I taking, and also to be more intentional and a bit more deliberate about me in the world, and what I want that to feel like, and how I want that to be experienced, and what value that I want to bring into the world. So it was an opportunity to go wrestle with some of those questions, and to really be more intentional about my leadership journey. And it's maybe just a last comment on it is that it takes a lot of preparation before you go. So we get I just don't have it here, but we get this like really thick a pack of readings, and a lot of those readings are like philosophy, right? So you're reading Plato, Mbongeni, you'll love this. You're reading Plato and Aristotle, and you're reading Socrates and all of these things. And of course, some other newer writers as well, but to a large extent, you're reading historical texts. And you're going and you're struggling with the language because of the way that they write, the way that they say things. But once you immerse yourself in the text, you get the opportunity to sort of lift your head and say, okay, this was written before Christ, some of the pieces. What relevance does it have today, and what does it look like in my life? And is it true, what is being said about the nature of mankind and the nature of womankind? And how does that manifest in my life? So it's a deep process. I almost want to say sometimes it's a spiritual process, but it's less about the spirit, but more the intellect, but your full intellect and your whole self. So the long and short is that I'm feeling very refreshed. I'm feeling very intentional. I'm feeling energetic again. And I'm like, okay, I might not be, exactly where I want to be right now, but I'm feeling like I'm on the right track. So that's why I wasn't able to make Mentorship Monday. So I hope I have everybody's forgiveness. And also, there's no cell phones allowed. Or devices allowed at all. So there was just no way that I was going to be able to do a Mentorship Monday anyway. Okay, now back to you guys and your questions. So to everybody that I didn't say hello to because you joined once we've started, hello again. I've already said hello to everybody already. So we got a couple of really good questions for this Mentorship Monday. And it's not a lot of questions, but it's the quality of the questions that for me was just really so impressive. And I really just wanted us to spend some time sitting in those questions together and grappling with those questions together. I also want to say, if you send comments so that I can pick up your voice and bring you into the conversation as much as I possibly can. So I want to start off with this question from Asi Ngobulele. And I thought it was a brilliant question. And Asi was asking, how do you know that you're making the right decision when it comes to quitting something? How do you know that you're making the right decision when it comes to quitting something? And I see my gut sense from my own experience is that you actually never really know. We live in a world where you actually never have like definitive data to say that this is definitely the right decision. At best, you're trusting your gut that leaving, that quitting, if that's how you want to frame it. Because remember, we can also frame it in different ways. Are you leaving? Are you quitting? Are you pivoting? And all of those things are a reflection of your state of mind and the mindset around that particular decision. And I think you never really know whether you're making the right decision or not. You are really at most hoping that, one, you're trusting your gut, but also my experience has always been you need to be prepared for whatever happens on the other end. So if I leave here, I need to have been thinking about what are the different scenarios and possibilities that I might be confronted with, and how am I going to make that work notwithstanding. And maybe I just want to think about a moment where I've quit something, and I want to go back again to the language of quitting, or when I've stopped something or I've exited something. So I remember that there was a particular job that I had where the job was really good in terms of my career prospects, right? So I was climbing the corporate ladder. It was very clear that I was definitely going to do very well. I was the only black female, or the most senior black female in the organization. And really, honestly, there was no competition, and all I needed to do was bide my time, do my work, and make sure and just allow the process to unfold. The other part of it, which was the unseen, was that I was in a very, very toxic environment. I wasn't necessarily the victim of that environment, and I think I've shared the story with you guys before, but I was witness to an executive who bullied people on a daily basis. And I suppose because I was the only black female, and maybe because I'm outspoken, he kind of did a wide line and never really bullied me. But I was affected by, you'd be going to the bathroom and you'd bump into people crying in the bathroom or crying in the parking lot because this person had happened to them. And although I wasn't bullied, I was undermined in a lot of different ways. I remember I'd have to prepare something to present to the board, and my name would be on the agenda, and then on the day, I would just get a message from him to say that we've decided to scrap your session. We don't need your presentation anymore. And this is not once, this is not twice, this is multiple times. So constantly being made to feel that you're really not important here. You're here. We like the fact that we've got a senior-ish black woman, but honestly, your contribution and your value is not required here. And I struggled with the decision to leave for a very, very long time. And that's because I struggled with that, because I think what I was doing, I was calling it quitting. And I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to be, to have to confront the reality that something there was something that I was unable to withstand. And I'd always considered myself as a very strong person who would be able to withstand anything. And here was this thing that, like, I was working six days out of a 7-day week. I'd literally go to the office either Saturday or Sunday because I was just trying so hard to prove to myself that I could do this. And that I stayed, right? I stayed instead of leaving. I sucked it up, and it was a really, really horrible experience. The reason why I eventually left is that I got headhunted by another organization, and that was my out. And when I pause and I think about that, I realized that the fact that I called it and I framed it as quitting was actually the thing that was problematic, because once I framed something as quitting, it put me in the position of being a powerless person, like being a person who was weak, being a person who could not withstand, being a person who could not conquer and who could not overcome, instead of seeing the situation for what it was. And actually, what another wrong thing that I did in that moment is I waited for another opportunity to rescue me. And if I think about it today, I don't know if I hadn't been headhunted by that other company, if I would have ever have left. And when would I have, like, how bad did I need it to become before I decided or took this decision that I'm actually not going to do this? So there's a couple of lessons from my experience that I want to share with you. The one is that it's important how we frame things. The minute you frame something as quitting, I think you automatically put yourself on the back foot. You frame yourself as weak, as not being able to withstand, as something being wrong with you. And I think we need to interrogate that language. And sometimes we need to think about, what does it mean if I pivot? What does it mean for me to go in a different direction? What does it mean for me to reinvent myself? What does it mean for me to reimagine the job that I have, and not necessarily always just quitting? Because I think language matters, and the way we frame things is the way they get framed in our lives and in our life story. So that's the one thing. The other thing that I've learned much later on in life, and I know this is going to be a little bit hard to hear, but I hope you're going to hear me. You're going to hear my heart in this, and this is it: no one is coming. No one is coming. And the reason why I'm saying this, guys, is that I made the classic mistake of waiting to be rescued through this other opportunity. And because when that opportunity came, I now saw it as my out. I didn't negotiate my salary. I literally took almost a 50% salary cut. I was so desperate to leave the place where I was unhappy that when I was headhunted at like a fraction of my salary, I jumped, right? And I went for it because I had now again put myself in a position of being rescued out of the situation. And here's the thing: when you are the one being rescued, you give your power and you give your agency to the hero, the rescuer in your story, and you forget that you can make this decision on your own. And so because I gave my power away, I wasn't able to negotiate my salary. I was unhappy about it, but I was like, okay, I'm going to make it work. At least I'll be happier. I took on a lot of work that I shouldn't have been doing, but because I was so grateful to not be there. So I went from a bad situation to a not great situation, but because I was like, I know what that feels like, I'm just going to stick it through here. And in each iterative cycle of being rescued, you give more and more of your power away. If I had the opportunity to do this differently, I would have actually listened to a conversation that I had with someone 3 months into that job. And this is someone that I respect a lot. She's like, she mentored me and in my early career. And I remember I bumped into her at an event, and I'm not going to mention names because then it's just going to be too easy to connect the dots. I bumped into her at an event, and it was a big event. And she said, oh my goodness, I heard that you're now working at so-so in place. And this was a question: are you happy? And I struggled, exactly like I'm doing now. I struggled to answer. And then she looked at me and she said, if you cannot answer that definitively, you should not stay. And I remember I left the event and I just thought, no man, it's still early days. It's only 3 months. I can't quit so soon. Because what will people think if I leave so early? Like, it will be as if I've completely failed. And that's why I stayed. So my lessons have been many in that instance. It matters how I frame a change in my life. If I call it quitting, it will be quitting. If I call it pivoting, it will be pivoting. If I call it reimagining, it will be reimagining. If I call it reinventing, it will be reinventing. What I name and call something matters, because that's how it is recorded in the story of my life. No one is coming, so nobody is going to rescue me, and I must release myself from the belief that I need to be rescued. And once I do that, I realize that the power and the agency to leave and to stay resides within me. The power and the agency to make the decision to stay or to leave resides within me. My life cannot be determined and dictated by people who choose to rescue me or not. No one is coming. Right? And I needed to learn that lesson, because once you give somebody the power of rescuing you, you are beholden to them, and you are beholden in gratitude to them, to the extent that you end up even accepting things you should not be expecting, because you are so grateful that they've rescued you. Okay? And that's going to be very, very important. I also think that this is not something that is only in the professional space, right? I feel like sometimes we don't quit relationships, we don't quit friendships, we don't quit situationships, because we are using that language. We are waiting to be rescued, right? You're waiting for the new relationship to come and knock on your door so that you have a legitimate reason why you've got to leave here to go there, because something better has come along the way. And that's how you end up moving from relationship to relationship and never actually taking a breather in between. Because when you are constantly being rescued from one relationship to another. My last comment on this is around friendships. One of the things I've learned about myself is that I also have sometimes savior syndrome. So what I mean by that, I don't know if that's what it's called professionally, so the professionals, you'll help me. But this idea that I like rescuing people self. And remember that we oftentimes do for others the thing that we want other people to do for us. And I do that in friendships. So I will always be that person who will look into a friendship and start offering, can I, let me offer money, or let me offer this, or how can I help this way, and how can I help that way? And that in itself creates dependencies within friendships that are not healthy. I had to learn after a friendship of 18 years fell apart that actually I was the problem in that friendship, and that I had enabled this situation of constantly rescuing this person in every single negative thing or thing that they perceive to be negative in their life. And so in doing that, what I did is that I took that person's power and I made it mine, because I was always the hero who was always, flying in with the cape to rescue this person, when actually what a good friend would have done is actually just stepped away, offer advice when asked, but let people make their own decisions to stay or to leave. And I'm learning that the hard way. I'm that kind of friend, like you come to me crying about something and I'm like, this is clear, you should do this and this and this and this. And then I see Guy at your house 2 days later, and then I'm all upset. And then I must remember, it's not my decision. It's not my life. And it's you will decide when you need to quit that relationship or not. Okay, so let's take a couple of comments. Abigail is saying that dependencies end up being a huge burden. Tell me about it. You actually end up resenting each other unnecessarily. Evolve says, I learned this year. I will help you, but I will not sacrifice myself. I'm no longer the sacrificial lamb. And Evolve, what I like about that is that oftentimes we don't realize we're the ones sacrificing ourselves. Nobody is asking us to rescue them. But because stepping into the posture of the rescuer makes you feel good about yourself, made me feel good about myself in my friendship. So I was the one who was always rescuing without actually being asked to rescue, right? Okay, cool. I'm not seeing any more questions. But thank you so much for the comments. I'm seeing them. Shengiwa says boulders versus knapsacks. Shengiwa, you've got to unpack that. I want more of that. Please tell us what do you mean by that. Nomonde is saying, I wonder what cape you were wearing. Spider Woman. Ushira. I don't know if you're too young to know Shira, guys. I was Shira herself. In a very toxic friendship that I needed therapy to actually let go of the friendship. And my therapist said, if I love this friend of mine, the best thing that I can do for them is actually get out of their lives. So it wasn't great. Okay. I want to pick up another question because I said the questions were, you see, we spent 20 minutes, guys, on the first question. So that's how good the questions were. Okay. Gosh. Ole Ramerafe, I hope I'm saying that right. Ole is saying, how does one navigate or learn political agility, especially for the workplace? Oh, guys, politics in the workplace. And you know, Ole, I think you're putting it so nicely. You're calling it political agility. So Ole's question is, how do we navigate or learn political agility, especially for the workplace? And I always feel like the best mentorship insights really come from experience, you know, not sort of textbook stuff. I'm not going to sit here and give you models around how to navigate politics, but I'll tell you my own experience and how I've dealt with those experiences. So I was really lucky, really blessed to very early on in my career have the opportunity to work in a very political environment at a very young age, right? And I worked in the presidency, and I had the gift, I'll call it, of being an intern. And the reason why that I'm calling it a gift is that because I was so junior, I think a lot of people didn't even notice that I was seeing certain things, right? They didn't notice that I was observing certain behaviors. So I'll give you an example of a behavior that I'd observed. You know, the tracker by email behavior, where I'm sending you an email not because I'm necessarily just trying to communicate something to you, but I'm trying to copy everybody in to show everybody that I told you a certain thing by a particular day, because I'm just waiting for you to drop the ball so that I can go back to that email and say, this is the email that I had sent already, so that everybody can see where the ball was dropped. So it is this idea of I'm sending an email because I want to make sure that my ass is covered and yours is exposed should ish hit the fan, right? So those kind of things. And I was really lucky to watch this with absolute fascination at a very, very young age. I think literally, guys, it was my first job out of varsity. And I would see people politicking, right? And I just remember thinking to myself, this is really interesting, how everybody is so concerned about covering their backs. So I just feel like a lot of politicking in corporate is not so much about a positive sort of capability, but it really just is about who can best cover their ass than the next person. And I feel that it's oftentimes about blame culture. You know, you see it in the emails where people say, as requested below, and then you see the string of emails and the requests coming from beneath. And my lesson about it, and this is what I want to share with you, Ole. I think it's important for you to understand your environment first and foremost. You have to understand the environment within which you're operating, right? You need to understand and you need to understand not only the environment, like the core environment, you need to understand the culture within those environments, and the subcultures within that environment. So for example, in a corporate organization, you might have what they want as or what's aspired to as the general corporate culture, but you have a specific culture within the executive team. You have a specific culture within your own team. You have a specific culture as you go lower down the rungs in the organization, because you've got subcultures within each pocket. And so you've got to be very mindful of, as you step into each of those spaces, it's like, as you step in, I don't know if I can pin two things. Tandega, I'll come back to your comments. As you step into those different spaces, you need to know who's in that space, what are the rules of the game in that space, who's the kingpin in this space, who's not the kingpin in this space, who's on your side, who's not on your side, who's your ally, who's likely going to be resisting anything that you put on your table. And you've got to be alive to that. But my number one thing is this: I do not believe that we need to change ourselves to suit all those subcultures. I hear a lot of people, when they talk about politics in the workplace, they'll talk about how you now need to play a particular game. Like if you have, for example, you're stepping into a subculture where there's a leader that likes to be deferred to, so they want to be seen as the only person who has the answers to everything. How you need to change your style of engaging so that you're constantly asking them questions so that they don't feel threatened by you. And then when you go into another place, you need to change who you are. I don't believe that. I believe that we need to always try and show up as consistently as possible, and we need to accept that some people are going to like us and some people are not. We're not here to be liked. We're here to get the job done. We're here to make impact. We're here to leave value on the table. And inevitably, there are some people that are going to like you and some people who are not going to like you. Inevitably, there are going to be people who don't like your ideas, even as you're saying them. And inevitably, there will be people who are always wanting to support you and always leaning in when you're speaking because they believe in you. There'll be people who don't believe in you. And there'll be people who are going to try and move boulders for you to try and help you make progress where you are. Your job is simple. Be yourself. Be your best. That's it. That's it. Be yourself, be your best. And whatever happens after that is a reflection of how people experience you. And not everybody's going to experience you in the same way. You're not going to be able to give people a uniform experience. All you can just be yourself. For some people that would be good, and for some people they won't like it at all. Be yourself, be your best, and let the politics take care of themselves. And that's really my advice to you when it comes to politicking. Try and be mindful of being sucked into situations that are not healthy. Don't gossip at work. It's never worth it. So be careful when you then get pulled into some little subgroups and you're going out for drinks or dinner, whatever, which is great, because I'm a big believer that the people we work with, we spend so much time with them that inevitably they become friends, some of them even as close as family. But be mindful of what are you being drawn into, your words, your actions about others who are not in the room with you at the time. Because when you leave that space, what guarantee do you have that your words won't be taken out of context and be used in a different way? Be yourself, be your best. Try and stay away from the politics. Raise your consciousness about the spaces that you find yourself in, so you always know, like, this is how I want to be experienced. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be my best. Some people might not like me. Some people will like me, but that's okay. And that's it. Okay, so I want to read a couple of comments. I first wanted to just get through Hlengiwe's comment where she says, because I was saying to her, what are boulders and knapsacks? And Tandeg, I'll come back to you. So Hlengiwe was saying boulders are issues that you need help with. So they're big issues. Thank you very much. and knapsacks issues they can handle on their own. Okay, lovely. So I love that thing. So this was in the context of being a rescuer, right? And Hlenge was saying you can actually distinguish between issues that are boulders, that those are issues that you can help with, but also be mindful that some issues are knapsacks, so people can handle them on their own. I think that's a really useful way of thinking, of looking at it. So thank you very much. I want to go to a couple of comments. Tandega, you had a great comment. Yeah, Peter, I 100% agree that when you change yourself, you lose your sense of power because you lose your anchor, because you're trying to be different things to different people. That's what political animals do, right? They're different things to different people, and nobody has a uniform, consistent experience of who they are. And we don't want to be those people. I always tell the story of, when I'm lying in that box, when I'm dead, in that coffin, I really want and hope that whether it's my parents, whether it is my siblings, whether it is people that I work professionally with, whether it's, clients, that the way they will describe me is the same person. They might have different experiences of me because I have different identities as a professional, as an entrepreneur, as a wife, as a sister, as a sibling, as an aunt, but the core experience of me needs to stay the same. Oh, Tandega, I'm trying so hard to find your earlier question. Oh, there it is. I don't know if it's this one. Oh, yeah. But you're saying, Tandega saying, it's not about your talent or your capabilities or your skill. She says, corporate, oh my gosh, I'm triggered right now. And I really hope, guys, I haven't, put people off corporate, because I think I sit on a lot of corporate boards. I don't think all corporate cultures are toxic. I really don't believe that. I have sit on boards where the culture is absolutely amazing. I'm an executive director at LRMG where the culture is absolutely amazing. But I do think cultures don't just happen. You need to actively work on them. And you need to be intentional about the culture you're creating. Every single person in an organization is a culture architect. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that when I say you're a culture architect. You know, when people complain about traffic, I'm sure I've told you this, guys, 100 times. Slindo Guhle, you've come onto all the Mentorship Mondays. I'm sure you can tell the story back to front now. You know, when people complain about traffic, right? So think about the last time you were in traffic, like really, really, really bad traffic, right? Did you stop to think that you are the traffic? That the reason that there's traffic is because you are there. And in fact, if you weren't there, there would be one less car adding to the traffic. It's the exact same thing as corporate culture. Corporate cultures are a reflection of our interactions amongst each other within that corporate environment. It's not this other thing out there. So if the corporate culture is toxic, it's because we are toxic. If the corporate culture is toxic, it's because we are toxic. If people are talking about having to survive a corporate culture, it's because people have to survive you and your behavior and the way you show up in that space. So we are traffic guys. So we are culture architects. We architect and build the culture that determines the spaces that we work in and that other people work in as well. I wanted to come back to Tandega's second point where she's saying, but Nozi, the problem is that 360 feedback where people don't judge you by your capabilities. You know, guys, I love that 360 feedback, right? I love that 360 feedback because, especially when it's anonymous. Because when it's anonymous, people really tell you what they think about you. And the minute, things are open and anonymous, then that politicking comes in. So people don't want their bosses to think ill of them. So imagine you're having to give 360 feedback to your boss, and you don't necessarily want to say to your boss that, or give them negative feedback. It's a missed opportunity in my view, because I think you can give feedback in a very constructive way. However, when you get those 360s, are you really listening to what people are saying about you? Remember that we all have light and shadow, guys. We all of us. No one's all pure light and rainbows. Alikho nje ithingolo nkosazana elihamba lodwa. So I'm sorry for not being able to translate that into into English. But we were not all light. We all have light and shadow. The invitation we need to think about in life is, how do we develop a consciousness about our light and shadow so that we can amplify our light and we can dim our shadows when we are in specific spaces? Because in some spaces, the thing that is a shadow becomes the light. So I'll give you an example so that it doesn't sound airy-fairy. One of the things that I really struggle with is really needing things to be in control, right? In my work experience, I just want to pin Peter's comment there. In my professional life, control is very important, and control becomes light, because the more I have control, it means that I've researched as much as I can. I've briefed my panelists as much as I can. I've done everything in my power to try and prepare for a really good conversation. So that attribute of control is something that is light. It's something that's positive because it allows me to do my job better. But if I take the same attribute and I take it into my relationship, I take it into my marriage, or I take it into my family with my siblings, it becomes a shadow. Because my husband doesn't want to be controlled. My sisters don't want to be controlled. My brother doesn't want to be controlled. My friends don't want to be controlled by me. But this attribute of control is something that exists and resides within me. My job is to raise my consciousness about it, to be able to get to a point to say, this is where control works for me. And this is when I need to dial it down, because it is detrimental to the relationships that I'm trying to nurture. And it is about knowing the difference. You can't deny who you are. If you are a person who desires control like me, accept that. Own that. Because that is who you are. But have the consciousness and the self-awareness to dial it up and dial it down in context, which is the point I'm trying to get to. Peter's saying, but these 360s can be used to destroy people's careers. That's politicking as well. That's politicking as well. And so we're just to wrap up that thought, Peter, is to say, again, if you are in a highly political culture in your workplace, it's because you guys are political. Remember, you are the traffic. So you've got to pause and think about, what is my contribution to this culture? And if I don't like the fact that we've got these instruments that we're wielding as weapons that destroy people's careers, what can I do about it? Because that's the only way you change the traffic situation. You turn around and you go home. Or you turn around and you off-ramp at the next off-ramp. It's not miraculously going to happen by you standing stock still and everybody else making a change around you. It doesn't work like that. We've got to be, I know these things, we talk about these sayings. When Mahatma Gandhi says, be the change you want to see. I remember hearing that saying very young. I think I might have been in primary school. But the older I get, the more I really hear what Mahatma Gandhi was saying. That I have to take the first step of vulnerability in doing the thing that I find difficult so that I can bring about the change that I want to see. If I want a better relationship with my sisters, and my relationship with them has been based on me being a big sister and being a sister of control, to change that, I'm the one who needs to change. I'm the one who needs to be their friend. I'm the one who needs to reach out and go drink champagne and get sloshed, or go and do this, I need to make that change. And that's how the relationship changes. I can't just say to them, guys, I don't like the fact that we're not as close as I'd like us to be, and then sit back and fold my arms and expect that relationship will change. It won't. So we've got to do the work. On another day, guys, I want to talk a little bit about this self-worth conversation, because I was so triggered by reading a definition of worth, and how it actually is directly correlated to work. And in fact, the suggestion that without doing the work, you cannot actually claim worth. Another day, it's too long. I want to get through some of the questions. Tanya again is saying, as an introvert, it automatically means I can't play the corporate politics. Hence, I'm very negative about 360s. I don't think, guys, please don't make this mistake of thinking that people who play corporate politics are the loud mouths. No. Or the loud mouths only. Even the quietest of introverts can be the most political people silently. You know those silent assassins? Silently, quietly. So don't make the mistake of thinking that somebody's silence means they're harmless. Or that because somebody is outspoken that they are harmful. It can't be. Human beings are driven by intent. They're driven by their own fears. They're driven by their own ambitions. They're driven by the need to self-preserve over others. And it doesn't matter whether they're loud or silent. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. That's why I keep coming back to this idea of be yourself. Be your best. Be yourself, be your best. Everything else will fall into place. Don't try to be a different person to different people. Just be yourself. And some people will like you, some people won't like you. Some people will think you're amazing, and some people will think you're the worst thing that they've ever seen. And you know what? That's also fine. We're not here to be liked. We're here to live, and to live purposefully at that. Okay, 23 Creation says, unfortunately, sometimes if you don't play the game, no matter how talented you are, you will not advance in that company. Perhaps then it would be time to leave. If you feel that the culture is so much against the grain of who you are, and you have the ability to leave, that is being the change you want to see. I'm taking the decision. We're going back to Asi's earlier question where she framed it as quitting. And I said quitting maybe isn't always the right word. Sometimes it is about leaving a toxic situation. And I think that's absolutely fine. Please hear me out. I'm not saying stay in difficult environments. But what I am saying to you is don't always assume that you have to get caught up in the political web. You don't. You really, really don't. And the more you teach people about the things that you'll engage in and the things you won't engage in, the more they will understand that this one, you can't go and do those political tactics with her because she just doesn't bite. And that just means having the discipline to stay true to yourself. Don't let yourself get caught up in things that you don't believe in. It's like finding a group of people who are gossipers and you're not a gossiper. Now, just because you want to stay friends with these people, now you're going to become you don't have to do what other people are doing. Really, it is about choosing. Who do I want to be? How do I want to be experienced? And at the end of the day, when I look at my life and my day, am I proud of the person that I was today? And you're not going to be proud every day because we all make mistakes. We say wrong things, we hurt people, we do a range of things. But the next day is always an opportunity to do better. But you can't live your life based on how other people behave. If people want to be political, that's their thing. You don't have to be caught up in that, right? Abigail is saying, which book can I read that helps us through the light and shadow consciousness? I would really love to dive deep into that. Ish. I don't know. I'm looking at my library right now and I'm not thinking of a book that comes immediately to mind. I'll have a look. I'll have a scan, Abigail, and then if I can find the book, I'm going to post it on my stories this week so that maybe, and also guys, if you've got any suggestions, if you've heard my heart around this light and shadow thing and you know a really good book, please recommend it and then we can maybe all look at that. Okay. Mavis is saying, if you believe 360s are not consistent, maybe you should consider doing an insights assessment. It gives great insight into who and how you show up around people and situations. Guys, I want to talk to you about my equestrian experience in relation to Mavis's comment, but let me just pick up other comments and then I'll tell you my equestrian experience. I just want to see... yeah, okay, people are wanting the self-worth conversation, all right. And then, yeah, Naledi is saying, that's quotable, don't think silent people are harmless. Yeah, all the quiet people now are going to be coming for me. Abigail is saying the silent ones are the dangerous ones, you never see them coming. Yeah, that's all we need to say. Mavis is saying you don't need to be everybody's cup of tea. You are the one to deliver a skill, or you're there to deliver a skill. Be consistent in who you are. Always know when to give feedback. Absolutely. So well said. Abigail is saying I would appreciate it, or a TED Talk. So this is about light and shadow. Tandega is saying, let's agree to disagree on this one. My closing statement is this: if you choose to stay in corporate, I think I know how to play the corporate game. You need a backer or sponsor in the right forum. Yeah, I think we can agree to, not even agree to disagree. I don't think we're disagreeing at all, actually, Tandega, because we didn't even speak about sponsors. But my comment about sponsors is that, and maybe we need to speak about sponsors in the workplace a little bit, guys. But my comment about sponsors is, let's also be mindful about what are you hiring a sponsor to do. Sponsors are not going to be there in your corner to fight political battles necessarily, right? You don't want a sponsor who's there because they're there to defend you. An effective sponsor is there to unlock bottlenecks, to open doors, to speak your name in rooms that you would otherwise not have your name in. Yes, every now and then your name might be on the table, and there might be a debate about whether it should be you or somebody else. And even in that conversation, your sponsor's job is to bring light to why you, not to get involved in having to defend you against politics. My thing is, don't get in, I think it was Julius Malema who said this. I don't even remember. He said something like, and I know it's not an original thing from him, but I just remember he said it in a very funny way, but something along the lines of don't get in the mud with pigs. My thing is, don't get in the mud. Make your sponsor's job easy. Make your sponsor's job, their job is to propel you forward, not to fight and defend the mess around you that you shouldn't be in the first place. So, that's just my thought, but I don't think we're disagreeing. Nomzi is saying, Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, great book for consciousness work. Thank you so much, Nomzi, for that. Tanig is saying you need a sponsor or mentor that's in the right forums to highlight your achievements. Yeah, we agree. I'm talking about positive framing of who you are and what you're capable of, not to get involved in your political battles. So, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my equestrian experience, because I feel like it might speak to that, to that earlier point we're talking about lights and shadows. So a couple of years ago, I used to orchestrate for Duke Corporate Education. So orchestrating is like facilitating, essentially. And we were being introduced to this new program where you need to facilitate using horses. And I had never done it before, and obviously I can't facilitate something that I've never seen before. So they said, okay, cool, we're going to take you on an equestrian experience with the horses so that you can experience it for yourself. And then in the next couple of weeks or so on, I then had an opportunity to then facilitate using horses. And the black person in me, initially I was rolling up my eyes. I'm like, hey, yeah, no, what is this facilitation with horses? It's never going to make any sense, but let me go for the experience. Guys, the long and short of it is this. I went to this equestrian farm, and there are all these horses, and I'll call him the trainer of the horses. Before you get into I don't know what's it called in English. In Zulu, we call it isbaya. The kraal-like thing that you get in. So the horses are in a pen. I think, yes, that's the English word. They're in a pen, and they've got the harness on them. So he says, you get in, they show you how to touch the horse, how to approach the horse so that it doesn't kick you, it doesn't get in front of you, and all of those things. But they say that the horse mirrors your leadership style. So the way you lead is the way that horse shows up for you. And again, guys, I rolled my eyes because I was like, okay, so this horse knows how I lead and how I show up. Anyway, I said, okay, I'm gonna try this anyway. So all I needed to do was come in, take the reins of the horse. So I'm not on the horse, I'm walking next to the horse. and I needed to lead the horse on a pathway that they had like a little obstacle course. So, around and this way and left and right and do all of that just by pulling on the reins. Tandegati come again. And every now, so I'd pull the horse, and every now and then, yes, Azungisi, you know this thing, right? So I'll pull the horse, but I kept looking back to see, is this thing coming or is it not coming? And then every time I looked back, it would just stop. And then every time I turned around and I'd pull it to where I needed it to go, it would follow me. And so afterwards, I said to the guy, okay, what is this leadership style, okay? What is this horse saying about me? And basically he told me is like, the leadership style I had at that time is that I don't trust people, right? So even when I tell somebody or I give instruction as a leader and I say, okay, this is what I need you to do, I'm the kind of leader who's always looking over my shoulder because I don't trust that that person can actually deliver what I need them to deliver in the way that I need it to be delivered. And so because I don't have trust in my team then itself never grows in confidence because they always feel that they can never meet the expectation that I put for them. Again, I was like, I know this is sounding a bit far-fetched. So then he said, try it again. This time, just trust that when you pull the horse will follow, right? And I was like, okay. So I pulled the horse once, and the horse followed and did every single thing that I wanted it to do. So I was like, okay, maybe there's a thing here. Then a couple of weeks later, this group of people arrived, right, for us to facilitate. And this one lady arrived in a Ferrari, and she was wearing all red. She was wearing red boots, red leggings. Yeah, they were like tight red jeans, a red top with a collar standing up, and she's wearing these big white glasses. And she stepped and had a nice body. She stepped into the thing with the horses, and you could just, by looking at this person, you got this feeling of like, okay, I wonder what the horse is going to reflect back about this person and their leadership style, because you all make assumptions. We all make assumptions about the way people look and the kind of leader that they might be. And so the more she tried to connect with the horse, first the horse became very aggressive, right? So like really, really, really aggressive. And they kept on having to, pull the horses back and pull her back, and the horse would get aggressive. And so eventually when they debriefed what was actually happening here, the debrief here from the trainer was that because she actually has such deep insecurities about her capability as a leader, she comes across so aggressive, so tough, and that her instrument of leadership is fear, because she's so afraid that people might actually see her gaps and the things that she doesn't believe that she has as a leader, and therefore won't take her seriously. And I just remember, absolutely to the point of Joey there, she just broke down into tears, because they tell you that feedback in the moment. Absolutely broke down into tears, cried buckets, and said that was the most honest piece of feedback that she's ever heard about herself. So the long and short of why I'm telling you the story before I go have my dinner is this: equestrian leadership experiences are really, really breakthrough experiences. If you have the opportunity to do it, don't be a nosy. Don't roll your eyes and be like, oh, this is not for me. Just try it. I think you can look it up at Duke. I think they still do it, but also just equestrian leadership, South Africa. You'll probably find that there's a lot of institutions who actually do that. And it's such I think you're so right, Livoniel. It's such a beautiful way of putting up a mirror of how people actually experience you, how people actually, how people like feel you, and the impact of your light and your shadow on people. And I just, I'll never forget that experience. I'll never forget that experience. This was one of the most amazing feedback sessions that I've ever received about the way that I show up within my team, the way I make people feel, and just allowing me to like lift my consciousness about that a little bit. So if you have an opportunity to do it, please do. So we're going to wrap it up. I do want to say, guys, we only did 3 questions today because Nosy speaks too much. But I hope it was meaningful, because I think sometimes it doesn't matter, it doesn't make sense. Thank you so much, Asi. It doesn't make sense to do 100 questions and then not do them justice. And then we're sort of like, playing at the surface and being superficial about the engagement. I think sometimes the questions that you guys are sending through, they're invitations to all of us to actually really just pause and say, jeepers, what am I being invited to here? What is the conversation that I'm being invited to have here? What's the conversation that I'm being invited to have with myself as well? So we got only about 10 questions, but I just wanted to say thank you to Asi, thank you to Ole. In fact, we did 2 questions, guys, in an hour. Thank you very much. And I really appreciated them. They got me thinking, really, really about how we frame things, the meaning we give to them. And then, of course, to this idea of political agility. And remember, for us, it's just be yourself, be your best. That's the only thing that we're asking. I think that's the thing that we're invited to do in the world. So thank you guys for being here. Please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel before my team kills me. So we're taking all of these lives and we're actually putting them on the YouTube channel, so you can actually go back and listen and take notes and do look at the reference to some of the books and all of those amazing resources, and really use the YouTube channel to your benefit. Thank you so much for all of your participation. Tandega, you were amazing. Thank you so much for all your engagement and your amazing questions. Samke is saying tips for finding a wife. You see, that's a conversation I'm not being invited into. I'm not accepting that invitation. Bye-bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Cheers for now. Bye.